Greg Gutfeld, dung of all media, saying all hands-off protests are a fraud. So they were all fake, too.
How about those hands-off protests?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a great time. We met some lovely people. It was hilarious. The maggots that push back or complain were very upset, and it was nice to see them whinging about.
Title, right? Sounds like something written on Joy Behar's lunchbox at work.
I don't know if that's a fat joke or just an office sociological reference.
But it's fun hearing hands off from people whose hands are in your wallet, scratching Teslas and reaching for your kids. And with so...
Sorry, pussy grabber's buddy says what?
Trans women in the crowd, some of those hands were huge. But what...
They're biological males. They're biological males. Do my hands count? Greg, since you aren't one, do you know what a man is?
Exercise and mass performance art. The message? For the government to keep its hands off Social Security. Of course, no one's touching that. It's about fraud. So the entire event was also a fraud.
No, actually. Mike Lee wants it cut entirely, and that's one of the ways they're going to pay for this tax cut. That's the concern. Also, they're shutting down offices so that they don't end up having to make direct cuts. They just make the services unavailable, and therefore the cuts happen organically because they're out of reach of the people that deserve them.
Hands off is pure progressive branding. Big emotion, zero accuracy. It's like...
Well, it doesn't just apply to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It also is USAID, veterans benefits, the VA itself, people's personal information through DOGE.
Staging a protest to save the whales in Nebraska when we all know whales are in New York. So...
You're in New York. And also, the idea is that these ladies are fat, I think is the idea. So, I gotta say, like, they aren't necessarily heavy-set women, right? That's the other way it fails. At least, like, use a close-up or something to sell your fucking joke. I know I'm just criticizing on the comedy aspect of it, and I know that's a waste of time because there is none.
What's this really about? It's about having no argument against the thing it's railing against.
They have plenty of arguments. I've made them quite clearly. The DOGE website is a joke. There's no transparency. It's a farce. They're doing hacksaw cuts to try and cover for Trump's tax cut, and they don't care who they hurt. And they only fix stuff if they're called out on it, and only the loudest things, which apparently are the people that, I guess, the loudest voices are the ones that are the most fraudulent. So I don't even know why they're following those folks.
Which is designed to actually help the people who are protesting. DOGE's actual goal, preventing a full-blown economic collapse.
No, it's a heist. Under the illusion that they're trying to cut some stuff using a government office that already existed. They just changed the name.
Where the U.S. dollar becomes so worthless, I don't even bother to take them out of my G-string after a show.
But also, the dollar is starting to devalue based on Trump's tariff stuff. And I guess in alignment with the DOGE shit. So what is the idea that Biden was destroying the dollar by making it too strong?
But rather than confront that terrifying reality, the organizers cooked up a fake crisis. They claim DOGE is trying to destroy Social Security, which is like accusing the fire department of starting fires by pouring water on them. They're also...
On who? On themselves or on the fire department?
Social Security payments will cease if DOGE isn't stopped. Please, it's 2025. The checks are digital. So no, grandma won't be eating fancy feasts because Trump took an honest look at waste and abuse. That's a lie. But the most cynical part, the organizers know this.
That's, by the way, a lie.
Know that they need to kill Trump's agenda if they're ever going to get their power back. And so they'd rather see the system burn than admit Trump has a point.
How would that stop his agenda if they're just wrong about those cuts? If he's not going to cut Social Security and they're complaining that he's going to, and he ultimately doesn't, how does that fuck with his agenda at all? Unless his agenda was to cut Social Security and they drew too much attention to it and now he can't. See what I mean? Does that register at all? If he's not going to do any of these things, then none of this fucks with his agenda.
Same group that brought you Russian collusion, democracy's
No, that was the NRA and the Republican Party and Trump himself.
death, Joe's just fine, and the classic 15 days to flatten the curve, which sadly had nothing to do with Peyronie's disease.
I know that's one of their ads they run regularly is the Peyronie's disease. The 15 days to stop the spread, which was something the Biden administration didn't do. That was the Trump administration. That was fucking March of 2020.
Of course, if these people told me the Earth is round, I'd check what planet I'm on. Fact is, if we do nothing, Social Security goes broke.
Right. So you do need to cut it. You are saying reform it. So stop lying.
Congressional Budget Office says it's toast in 2 years. That's not a hunch, it's math. But instead of dealing with it, the usual suspects deem it evil because in short term, it helps them.
So is he going to cut it or not to save it? Are they going to lower? They're not going to find enough waste, fraud, and abuse to salvage it. There isn't enough of that. That's constantly being pruned. That's a natural part of this. None of these changes that DOGE is making is going to singularly save Social Security or extend it at all. So now you're arguing that we do need to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So they are right to fucking carry the signs, you dipshit.
Solves this crisis, that's the real threat to their ecosystem of imaginary crisis. And their upside down world where George Floyd's a hero, the women's bathroom needs urinals, and Tim Walz is the only real man left. What they really...
Yeah, it's a terrible anchor to that joke. I mean, the two primary setups are just kind of like Republican bumper stickers, and then they're just trying to find ways to make digs at Tim Walz, and doesn't really work because he's too likable. Something that, by the way, Greg Gutfeld will never be burdened with.
...is to scare you into giving them back power. And they can easily find bodies.
Because black people are scary.
Do it. Why is that? Well, they pay them. And these protests exploit the human desire to find a mission. The mission is false, but it indulges their sense of meaninglessness.
Oh, is that what happened on January 6th?
But this mission doesn't relieve that anxiety.
Sorry, is that what happens at every Trump rally with these dipshits in their silly hats?
It just worsens it. The protests come up out of nowhere because the party has groomed millions of people to act based on inner turmoil. It is one thing to try and...
Sorry, why would it be inner turmoil if you give a shit about co-equal branches, the Trump using emergency powers to deal with stuff that is like normal level of conflict that all presidents have to deal with, but suddenly to him, because he's such a fucking wuss, everything's a goddamn panic? And because apparently you guys have a mandate. You have a mandate in the House and the Senate, but you can't get your act together to pass a law around any of this shit. So he's got to EO everything.
Since the solution itself would bring relief. But if the problem is you...
Again, are we talking about cutting Social Security or not?
That's an endless supply of strife, which the Dems exploit. At the beginning, it was class warfare, then identity politics. Now you got both, where grievances are endless. But after every protest, you only feel worse. And
no, I felt pretty good. It was really fun. It was a nice day.
To be exploited again. If the Dems do this correctly, they create an enclosed loop. And once you get on there, there's no getting off.
Why not? I mean, they're not that close together. You got a few months to think about it.
Imagined reality and no help to your actual reality.
So they've just given up on comedy monologues entirely, except for banana graphics to try and cover the gap. But so this is like they're using the same ChatGPT prompts that Glenn Beck uses for his little, I've had some thoughts, and they aren't his thoughts at all.
It solves nothing. But there is an unintended benefit to this. It brings curious people face to face with what they could be, which might be the first step in alienating them from the
They could be a veteran.
party. Is this who I am? Is this who I identify with? A blue hair they, them, and a Hamas scarf shouting that Nazis are oppressing they and them?
Yeah, we're not seeing any of that here. I mean, generally, maybe this addresses you, and that's maybe why you're overly sensitive about it. But the concern about Social Security and him acting like a monarch and the dump Trump, rhyme works perfectly fine. There's an HHS concern because we've had 2 kids die of measles in Texas unnecessarily. I don't see any blue hair freakazoids in any of this. Also, you're the same folks that had people dressed up like colonial revolutionaries over the ACA.
It's no longer just you on the internet. You're now face to face with your alleged allies. There for the grace of God go you. And boy,
What do you mean? It's nice to meet them. The fuck is this? Oh, by the way, if Greg and any of these dipshits on his show have to actually talk to any maggots, it's horrifying. They can't get to the exit fast enough.
suck. Let's welcome tonight's guest.
Same people every time.
He's brilliant and British and makes lefties skittish. Author of the new book on democracy.
All right, Douglas Murray and blah, blah, blah. And then the big dude and what's her name and who cares. And this the book and this the thing. And then Andrew Gruel's chef and restaurant owner. Thank God, a man who will speak about the if we burn, you burn with us, meaning financial issues. Save USAID, defend USAID, make America America again. I don't see any problems with any of these signs. And I'm really not interested in anything that those guys have to say, but I thought we'd drop in for that piece of it. But the idea was that apparently those are all fake. That those are all, they're contrived by Soros and that like. And I have to say, after yesterday, if I may, I have to reopen this window too, because we're going to cover this in a second. That yesterday I didn't feel like it was the greatest live stream in the history of live streams as it should have been, because largely we're in jump ball mode, like slow-mo, like the ball is just in the air. And until it lands tonight and some of these effects start to happen, you see people talking about the about. They're talking about the sort of the possibilities surrounding the possibilities until they actually play out. And there's a lot of like copium and hopium on the right trying to cover for this. And until the ball lands, you don't know what their reaction is going to be like. And in this, hold on one second, do this. And then we'll go to drip, drab. Hold on one second. Is this a Judge of the White House restore AP's access to Trump? That's nice. We'll see if they do it. How do I get involved in these traveling shows? A Boston accent plays anywhere except maybe New York. I'm for it. My brother, I will take care of your plane ticket to get you in with us. It will come out of whatever take I may or may not have.